Hey YouTube, welcome back to Tinker with Tools. Today we are going to be talking about oscillating multi-tools. More specifically, I've got 3 examples in the 12 volt lineup from major brands that we're going to be talking about and letting you know which one I think gets the Tinker with Tools recommendation. So let's get right into that on Tinker with Tools. So if you've never used an oscillating multi-tool, it is kind of just that jack of all trades or catch-all when it comes to performing kind of odd or weird tasks. It excels obviously at different cutting tasks with a wide variety of blades that you can buy for different applications, different materials, including wood, plastic, metal. You can even cut grout and do different things with it. It's a highly versatile tool. But you can also do sanding applications, and they even sell scraping blades. So it really is just kind of a unique tool that fills a lot of different little niches, and really, when you need one, it is the only tool you can think of to do the job. Now, I've had an oscillating multi-tool for about 5 or 6 years now. I started with the Rigid Job Max, which was kind of their tool platform that had multiple heads that you could get. Now, that was good for a starting oscillating multi-tool, but soon I started to wonder if there was something better out there and if I could upgrade. Well, ultimately, I ended up with a 12 volt oscillating multi-tool that we'll talk about here in a minute. But over the last few months, I've actually acquired 2 other versions of that same tool from different manufacturers. And so I want to go through kind of a little head-to-head comparison, talk about the pros and cons of each, and at the end of it all, after some testing, show you which one I think deserves your hard-earned money. So let's get right into that. So this is the first one that we're going to be talking about. It is the Bosch GOP12V28. It is their brushless 12 volt oscillating multi-tool. Now there are a couple of unique things about this that we're going to get into. Now you can pick this one up online as a bare tool through like Amazon, for example, for about $75 to $80. Now like I said, this one does have a couple of unique features. This one is the only one we're going to talk about today that features the StarLock blade interface system. Now, StarLock has a couple of different versions of it. It has the StarLock Plus, I believe, and StarLock Max or something like that. This is actually just the regular StarLock. Most of the multi-tool blades will have some sort of opening at the back and these little notches that allow you to kind of hook it into the system. The StarLock has kind of this domed little star pattern that actually sits down and interfaces with the tool. Additionally, in this case, there is going to be a screw that goes in there and really holds it into place. Now, the idea behind StarLock initially is just that it's designed to give better torque transfer from the tool to the blade. What I find in practice is it certainly does work well, but I don't know that I notice it working so much better than any of the other tools. Now, with this tool specifically, to be able to change the blade, you do actually have to have an Allen wrench on hand or an Allen key. But the real disappointing thing is that with that being required for the tool, there's not a place included on the tool for you to store it. So you're just going to have to hope you don't lose it and have it on hand. Now, I have to say that once you get that back secured on there, it does work pretty well in terms of holding the blade in place, but it's not like the other tools actually struggle at that, and the ability to quickly change the blade is greatly diminished by this method. Now, the other features of this tool is it does have a variable speed dial that allows you to go from 5,000 oscillations per minute all the way up to 20,000. Now, aside from that, there are no lights on this one. And I have to say, when you turn it on, you'll see one of the things that kind of hits you right away. I hope the mics don't flatten that out too much because this is a very loud oscillating multi-tool. But let's go ahead and see what the competition is bringing to the table and see how this stacks up. Now, the one I actually picked up most recently is going to be this. This is the DeWalt 12 volt extreme brushless oscillating multi-tool. Now, this is considerably smaller, it seems, than the Bosch, and it is definitely nice and small and compact. Now, unlike the Bosch and the other one we're going to be talking about today, this one actually has a slide style battery pack, and so it does allow them the opportunity to have a different handle on here than these other 2 options. This one has a more traditional pistol grip. Now, additionally, right above the trigger, this one does actually have a safety switch. None of the other tools here tonight feature that, but I actually really like that feature because it does allow you to lock out the blade and the trigger. Now, the thing that stands out the most about the DeWalt is going to be the blade change system. DeWalt has gone with this incredible lever style change system that allows you to simply pull back on the lever, slot the blade into place, and you are ready to go. This one is definitely going to be the fastest one we're talking about tonight, and really comes in handy if you have to switch blades or switch applications quite frequently. This one doesn't actually have a variable speed dial. It does just actually make you control it with the trigger, and so you can kind of ramp it up if you want, but if you want a very precise oscillation speed, you're not going to be able to do that with this. Now, last but not least, this one does have a light. That is something that was missing on the Bosch. This one goes for about $129 if you're going to be buying it in a store like Lowe's. Right now they have a special where you can get a 12-volt starter kit with it, and you're going to be able to get a 5 amp hour and a 3 amp hour 12-volt battery with it, plus a charger. So it kind of makes it a very nice, affordable kit at that $129 price. All right, now last but definitely not least, this is going to be the Milwaukee M12 Fuel Oscillating Multi-Tool. This is actually what I replaced that old rigid Job Max with. Initially wondering if I was going to be disappointed with the tool, and I could not have been further from the truth. This is really one impressive tool. Now that's not to say that it's perfect in every way, but I do think when it comes down to it that this feels more like an 18-volt tool. Let's go through some of the features here. You do have a variable speed dial that allows you to fine-tune this from 10,000 oscillations per minute up to 20,000. There is just a slide style switch. This one also then has a light, and then for the blade change mechanism, you do just have this lever here that comes up and kind of loosens the clamp on the front, and then there is just a thumb switch that allows you to loosen that, and you don't even have to loosen it all the way to then be able to go ahead and put the blade in place and then tighten it back down. And you don't need to tighten it all the way, just kind of get it a little bit close, and then when you snug the clamp down, it actually sucks it in and holds it into place. Now overall, this is not a bad blade change system, it's just that it's not the best one here tonight. Now it is the largest and heaviest one. I have found, however, that with that they seem to have included a little bit more dampening of the vibration in this tool, and so it does make it a very nice tool to use. And so even if you're having to use it for a while, it just really doesn't get to be that bad on it. So now, as I mentioned, this one is actually going to be the biggest, it's going to be the heaviest, but then it's also going to be the most expensive, where you can pick up both of those other ones for tool only for about $75 to $80, depending on the day on Amazon. This one is going to come in at $159 for the bare tool, $179 in a kit with a 2 amp hour battery. All right, so now that we've gone ahead and talked about each one of the tools individually, let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about how they compare. Now the first one I mentioned is going to be the oscillation speed, or the oscillations per minute. There you're going to see that the Bosch and the Milwaukee actually tie for the highest speed at 20,000, with the DeWalt coming in a little bit less at 18,000. When we go over to the oscillation angle, you're going to see that the Bosch comes in under 3 degrees of oscillation angle, with the Milwaukee edging out the DeWalt. So when we started testing decibels, I measured 2 different ways. The first one is going to be testing roughly 20 inches away from the tool. I set the tool on one side of the workbench in one hand and held the decibel meter on the other. And there I was seeing with the Bosch getting readings in the low 90s, being almost 2 feet away, whereas the other tools were in the high 70s. So kind of with how decibels work, that means the Bosch is more than 2 times as loud as these other tools. When you get closer to the motor, you see the Bosch go up over 100 decibels, while the other two up close are right around that 90 decibel range. Now for testing, I did just kind of a couple of basic tests. Mostly was just going to be able to give the tools a good shakeout so I can give you an opinion of which one I think is worth your time and money. The first one was just doing more of a plunge cut through a 2x4, just to kind of see how effectively they can make it through it. I did notice that all 3 of the tools were able to do this with relative ease. There is certainly more vibration in the DeWalt and Bosch as you're doing this test, and so that makes it a little bit more difficult just to kind of hold it steady and get it to do exactly what you want. Now, when it came down to the performance test, the second performance test we did, I actually did put 3 16-penny nails into that 2x4, into the end grain, and then we went ahead and performed kind of the same cut going through the nails. Now this test was a little bit more revealing about the power that each of these tools pack. As I was going through them, you could definitely hear the motors of the Bosch and the DeWalt struggle more than that of the Milwaukee to make those cuts, and sometimes really feel it bogged down when you'd hit the nail and have to kind of power through it. Now with that, I will say that the Bosch was able to do it without the motor stalling, and perhaps I pushed a little too hard on the DeWalt, but I did get it to stall a time or two in trying to make those cuts. That is something that I was a little surprised to see about the DeWalt, but given that it is the smallest and most compact here, it's possible it's just not quite as powerful as what we're getting from the other tools. So when it comes down to the ergonomics of them, I do think that the DeWalt perhaps feels a little bit better when you're using it in the hand, up until the point when you turn the motor on. I think that the blade change mechanism and the grip on it is very nice, and it is smaller, and although it's not as light as the Bosch, it is going to be the second lightest one here, and it's only losing out a little bit. It's the shortest and most compact, and I think it has pretty good balance. But when you start using the tool, I think that's one where the Milwaukee really shines, and you start to forget about some of its weight and length, because you are just getting a much more premium feel when you're using the tool, and the vibration is so much less when you're doing that. The Bosch wasn't necessarily bad to use, but the noise of it really was just completely awful and was something that made me not want to keep using the tool. So the ergonomics weren't necessarily terrible, but the noise that it makes just kind of made it unappealing to use, in my opinion. All right, so at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, which of these tools is going to get the Tinker with Tools recommendation? Well, I'm going to be telling you that this one is worth the money if you're going to be using it heavily, or if you just want the most premium filling tool that is out there in this segment of 12-volt oscillating multi-tools. This is the best one by far. It had the most power, it was the nicest to use, and although it is the heaviest and has the highest price tag, I think if you're looking for a premium tool or going to be using it day in and day out, this is going to be the one to get, in my opinion. I think this one competes more favorably almost with the 18-volt variants than it does going up against some of these 12-volt tools, because I feel like that's just how well they've made this tool. I think it's the one that can really make you feel like you got something that is truly better than the rest that are out there. Now, that being said, if you don't want to pay for the Milwaukee, I don't think there's any problem going with the DeWalt. This one has the best blade change system. It is the smallest in terms of physical size, and it was the second lightest. And so for those, especially if you get it at the 129 with those nice batteries, I think this one makes a really compelling value and is a little more budget conscious than what you're getting with the Milwaukee. Because of the deficiencies that I mentioned with the Bosch, I really just don't feel like that one can get a recommendation for me. All right, so there you have it. If you have any questions about these tools, go ahead and leave them in the comments down below. If you'd like to see other testing, go ahead and leave those in the comments as well, and I'll see what I can accommodate. If you like the video, go ahead and hit that like button. And if you want to see more content like this, make sure you subscribe so you can get notified anytime I put out a new video. Thanks for all your support, and until next time, I'll catch you on Tinker with Tools.